Welcome back to the Leeds Rhinos Podcast, episode 25. We had a week off last week with a bank holiday and no game for the men's team last weekend, but we're back firing all cylinders ahead of our massive clash against Hull FC this Friday night at AMT Headingley as Betfred Super League action returns to the home of the Rhinos. Don't panic if you're watching on YouTube. It's not that Spider-Man meme where we're all podcasters pointing at each other. Jonesy's joined me here, does a fantastic job for us on so many podcasts, but he's the guest today rather than the host, and we can't wait to hear his great thoughts on all things Rhinos going forward. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure you get all the latest news from the Rhinos podcast when they come out. Give us a like and a 5-star review so we can continue to spread the word about Leeds Rhinos across all the podcast platforms, wherever you normally get your podcast. It's great to get your feedback. Nice to get some messages last week from people saying they missed it last week when we weren't on air. That's great. If you don't miss it, we're doing something wrong. So it's great to be back with you and looking ahead to this weekend's game. But first of all, we'll look back to Magic Weekend up at St James's Park. A great win, Jonesy, against St Helens. Amazingly, for Harry Newman, 13th time he's played against Saints. First time he's got a win. Only the second time in 20 games against Saints that we've beaten them. It was long overdue, but the made us sweat a bit at the start of that second half, but actually the lads were in control for long periods of that game.
It was a big crescendo, wasn't it? We've got some deep rivalries with St Helens, and that's an interesting eye-watering stat, isn't it? But we turned it round, and that was the hope everybody had coming in off the back of OKR, where you felt we're playing against the top of the league here, and I think everybody that I sat near anyway, as I moved around the stadium, believed we were going to get over that hill. We didn't quite get there, but then there was always a hope and there's a belief this year that we can beat anybody when we're playing well. We've done that with Wigan. We've been close to Warrington, again, OKR. And St Helens was that opportunity at Magic Weekend, which the fans have voted with their feet. Love it up there in the northeast. It's a great festival atmosphere. I think having looked back at some of the attendances, that's where they want to be. Great occasion, and being that game that, for me, everybody wanted to see. They started the game like house on fire. It was unbelievable the way we started. I think at the end of every defensive set, there's so much grass behind the Leeds team at the minute. I think it breeds a lot of confidence in the side, playing at the right end of the field. And when we've got the ball, we're in the space where there's opportunities. And I think those layers that Brad Arthur's built right from off-season, preparing the boys to be physically in the right shape to be able to play the way they do, 10 out of 10, and then the defending the way they are. There's a mad start at the start of last week, where we're top of the league for the least missed tackles, which gives you an immense amount of confidence, certainly when you're defending your own line, and to play a little bit as well, take them risks. But then the next layer is that consistency of attack, which I think will come as we get more frequency. Some of the spine have obviously been missing. Lockie Miller coming in at the start of the season, obviously missed the first few games, but the consistent player for me has been Jake Connor all the way through the season, and again, phenomenal, and some standout players I think you're going to mention as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Jake there. Your colleague from Sky Sports, Jenna Brooks, spoke to Jake after the game. It was interesting, the word he used, which I thought was quite telling, about the instruction they were given by Brad Arthur, was to be more brave.
Yeah.
I think that's a really strong word, that is it, being brave with the ball. And I think in that first 10 minutes, you saw a team that were brave, but had confidence in their ability to be brave. No good being brave and not having the tools to go into battle with, but actually to back themselves and to back that with bravery and play that way.
That's it. You've nailed it. It's the confidence, and the confidence comes from that prior wall of evidence, building the layers. Starts with being fit enough, being able to defend well enough, having that team cohesion. And then again, the proverbial icing or the cherry on the cake is being bold, having confidence in the players that sometimes might be high risk, high reward, knowing that if it doesn't quite go to plan, you've got the minerals and the depth to be able to defend your line, get the ball back and go again. And just some opportunities, there's a bit there, Morgan Gannon, just world class, the way that he finishes off there with Riley Lum. And Riley Lum perhaps could have had a couple more, had ball being an inch forwards, backwards, sideways. And I think as he develops as a player, and he is doing, he's still young at it, he's got lots to learn, lots of game time to achieve. But as he grows into that position, he'll nail those opportunities, and you might find yourself coming in 2, 3, 4 tries in front.
Yeah, you mentioned Morgan Gannon in passing there. Another top game from Morgan. Second for tackles on 34, just behind Jared O'Connor with 36. He was second as well for runs on 17. Lockie Miller leading the way there, unsurprisingly, with 27. And metres with the ball, Lockie Miller tops that again with 250, but Morgan there with 195. In fact, our entire backline, which I appreciate Morgan is a part of, our entire backline all making over 100 metres. And it just shows that their willingness to run from depth as well.
Yeah, I think with Morgan, I've watched him from being a young kid. His size, his physical ability, his temperance, and that's just patience and having the ability to stay calm in high emotional moments, and his ability to look up and see what's on, put the right play on at the right time. It's always been there. We've perhaps not seen as much of it because he's obviously had a lot of time out through various ailments, but now that he's getting that consistent game time, you're starting to see that really come to fruition. World class, and he can play in any position. The world is his oyster. But they're all parts of constituent parts of a whole. And I think what's really important at the minute about the Leeds Rhinos team, you might look on the other side, James McDonald playing his part, being exceptional. A lot of tries a few weeks ago over there at Salford. Often one of those back rows that goes unseen, makes a lot of tackles and has those involvements that everybody appreciates. James Bentley, everybody's playing their part now, and the sum is becoming more than the whole of its parts at the minute.
Yeah, for me, James McDonald's been one of the standout players in a non-outstanding way. He's doing all the little bits that his teammates need. It reminds me a lot of a former teammate of yours, Carl Ablett, that he's got the skill levels there. We've seen a couple of nice little passes out the back from Mako, set up a brilliant try the other week there. He's also kicked a few opportunities for the team as well. He's been able to get that level of skill involved with, but at no point dropping the graft in defence or taking up the line with them on attack.
Yeah, I think Carl Ablett's a great analogy. He was always worth 6 points in a grand final, wasn't he? And he'd go under radar, maybe get under previewed sometimes, could play 6 if he had to do. And again, just fantastic, hard-working back rows. And that's what back rows do, right? I played there, like, I don't know, maybe 350 times. We're always trying to be that conduit, the machine, the glue that holds things together, does that unseen work, but it gels the team together and it puts you as a group in a position to go on and win games. And that was what was important for the Leeds Rhinos against St Helens, that having been in positions where we've perhaps fallen short at the back end of games, we overcame that hill, finished really strong, one without its calamity. There were some moments in that game where you go, whoa, but then you had that confidence that you spoke about before to go, no, lads will be all right, they'll regather, get the ball back, and they'll keep attacking Saints and come up with the 2 points of result. And there's so much more to come, Phil, I believe.
Yeah, and one man we can't go any further without mentioning, a former teammate of yours who's just been a great addition to the squad in the last month or so. Callum Watkins started at loose forward, but can play in any position. He's sort of just he's the Swiss Army knife of the team. Brad Arthur knows if he has any problems anywhere, he can just move Callum in to fix that problem. And he had an outstanding game. If you've not seen Box 2 in association with Best Western Hotels GB, check it out where Jamie has a deep dive with Callum and just fascinating watch, and you just see what a mature man that Callum has become now, and his outlook on life. It's fascinating. He's been through some tough times, both in terms of his time over in Australia, but the decisions he made and how he backed himself, his time at Salford, and obviously what they've been through, and really fascinating. And if you wonder where Callum Watkins is at and why he's able to be so adaptive and so able to get the job done, that great Box 2 with Jonesy and Callum, check it out, because it gives you a real insight into the man, doesn't it, and why he's so crucial. And he's just, even though he's a new player to the squad, it looks like he's never been away.
He looks great, and he was a hybrid racehorse, wasn't he, even in his youth? And it's funny you mentioned that maturity. Both Callum, Ryan, Joel Moon, I've been leaning right into listening to them as they've developed and matured through life experiences into the people that they are now, and the way that they look at things a little bit more philosophical, got a bit more empathy. And I think when it comes to leadership, that's, for me, the foundation, understanding the people that you're playing with and having that ability to do and say the right things. There's some detail in Callum's game that I've loved to see, and I'll give you one, and nobody else, maybe perhaps apart from coaches might see this, but there was a last play in the game, a couple of games back, and it was a little bit offside. He just timed his run a little bit wrong, and he checked himself, and he was onside then when the kick got put through by just an inch. But that's all it needed, and he was onside, and I thought, that's like a subconscious detail that he'll add to his game, that if he ends up in a position where he needs to recover that ball, score a try, it's definitely a try. It's always a try. Or he needs to come up with a big tackle. He's not offside. Just those little detailed bits of discipline become contagious and everybody else comes with it. And that's leadership. I think when we talk about 10,080 minutes in a week, we often see and judge players by that 80 minutes, but it's what they're doing that other 10,000 that influences everybody else. And I don't get bored of saying it, a rising tide lifts all the boats, and when all the boats are rising, as we are seeing now, and that's where the hope comes from, you get a good team performance.
Yeah, fascinating. You just remind me there when you talk about that discipline and that eye for detail and making sure you are in that position. I remember the time when you were interim head coach and you said that to the guys, just make that effort. Just don't be offside, because if we score and we've put on a great play and it's because you were offside, because you couldn't make that effort to get back there, you've undone everyone else's hard work. And actually all that takes is for you to be disciplined in yourself and go, right, I'm not going to be there. And if the unlikely event that ball pops out and we put it down, it's a try, and there's no question to it.
Absolutely. There was 3 non-negotiables for me. There was 1, be onside for your kicks, kick chase together as a wall, because it's not easy to do. It's a simple thing, but it's not easy to do, and it's a great way to measure where people are. Everybody goes to floor. You've got to put everybody on deck. That was a bit of a Brian McDermottism, and we found it. When you're winning that physical battle, you tend to get most of the fruits, and the other bit was keep pressure, because the reverse happens when Lockie Miller or whoever it is at the back there during our time gets the ball. Then you need to know you've done your very best to help them start that next set forward. And look, since then, the rest is sort of history. But there for me, building blocks that help you to understand those effort areas. I think at the minute Brad Arthur's been exceptional, and you can really see that whatever is installed into them and whatever detail is important to them in terms of their current values is really starting to pay dividends.
I think that values and the systems that Brad's put in there, and Jamie Langley and Grixie and Chev are all working on them, it's obvious that it goes right across, because you have someone like Alfie who comes in for his first start of the season and just fits in straight away. Hawley isn't there. Losing Hawley is a big loss for that team. Yeah. But Alfie comes in and adds a different dynamic, and we get the try on the back of him supporting the break and going through. We mentioned Alfie there. We'll probably need to mention a big talking point out of the game. I don't think it was a turning point in the game, but the sin binning for Murphy on the challenge of on Alfie there. You obviously spoke about it at the time on Sky Sports, and for me, the players got a duty of care about where they're going. It is an accident. It isn't foul play. It isn't, the era you grew up, there was people who were out there doing pure brutality. And then we spoke to the guys from 75 last week at the Hall of Fame, and we'll talk about that a bit more later on, where it was just outright thuggery in some of those games. There's no question that the outcome of what's happened isn't what Murphy's doing. He's trying to get the ball. But, for me, he's got a duty of care to make sure that he's not jumping into someone's head in midair. And I think probably the yellow cards, it's no suspension on the back of it. I think that's right. I think in terms of the disciplinary, they've probably got about right this year. Yeah. We're not seeing players sat out. People want to come and see players, don't they? We're not seeing players sitting out games because of a reaction on a field, where someone's caught someone high. But actually, I think the yellow card on the game was probably the right call.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Phil, after often wear different hats and be able to see things through a multitude of different lenses. And I try my very best to do that. I think first and foremost is we're in an era now, in a world where you just can't make contact with the head. Sometimes that happens through poor technique or being reckless. Sometimes it is accidental. I thought Murphy's jump was exceptional to get that high and compete, but ultimately it made contact with Alfie Edgell's head, and you just can't do that anymore. Plus, you know, you look at his technique, perhaps there's maybe ways in which he could have tucked himself in a little bit. But we're in a world where we've got to just crack down and make sure that everybody can see that as a game, we're doing our very best to make it as safe as we can do for our players, because otherwise the consequences are catastrophic. I think most things in life make sense with enough information. And the challenge we've all got as a game is to find that information as objectively as we can so that we can make the game better. A better game means everything's better for everybody. But yeah, no, it was unfortunate. I thought I agree totally with you. It was the right decision. And yeah, we move forward.
Yeah, I think we've seen it out in recent weeks where people have just got the tackle height wrong. I know Brad's often spoke about in the press conference that we work on lowering that tackle height and making sure, particularly the big men, their technique and trying to get low. And sometimes that's going to go wrong and you just get the time wrong and they end up with a yellow card. I don't think jumping for a ball is any different from that. I think probably that those lads get punished more than anyone else because you see it. It's a big body hitting each other.
Yeah.
It's a really obvious one. But you jump through the air, he's trying to catch the ball. Well, it's still the same principles in play there. So, I think they probably got it right.
It applies in repetition. I think, obviously, there's some skills in rugby league you need that you probably don't do that often. Tackle technique is one that you should be repeating maybe, hundreds of times a week. I mean, you're going to perhaps some of our back rowers, it might be 50, 60 in a game. And actually, when you look at who the safest defensive players are, the stats will tell you that it's the boys who go through the most frequency. The players that go through there, it's the ones that don't get the repetitions under the belt that tend to end up on the wrong end of things. I would like to ask you a question, just as an objective one as well. Do you think, looking at the effects and some of what's come in the last 2 years, certainly the sanctioning has had a positive impact on tackle technique? Do you think defences are better?
Yeah, I think when you look at it there, players know what's required. So actually, they're now having to get into a position to make that tackle correctly, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I think what it's also we're seeing a reduction of is that reckless tackle. So getting bad body position, bad timing, bad positioning, that then you panic and you make a bad tackle. Now, what we did see at the start of this year is the hip drop, which invariably is when you've lost the tackle. It's a desperate attempt to get the bloke down. Hopefully that's been clamped down on, and no one wants to see it in the game. It's and that's poor technique, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. We've had Mark Butcher on here. We've had John Bastian on the podcast as well, talking about how we develop coaches as well as players for the community game. And if we can put them good habits into young players, then those things just become a thing of the past. And I think the focus on the tackle and body height makes you think about tackling all the time, doesn't it? Where am I putting my shoulder? What's my body height? Do I need to drop my body height? Where's he going? Is he stepping? Do I need to move across? And I think that focus on tackling rather than just tackling being part of the game. Well, I need to make my tackles and I need to stop him. And that sort of one-on-one brutal thing. If he's on the floor and I'm stood up, I win. Well, actually, how are we doing that and things like that? And I suppose it's something that's come from the NRL initially, but I think in this game, because over here, particularly because we've got this focus on the head height and everything, because we've got the big focus on union in this country and there, everyone sees on the telly the red cards and yellow cards in that game. I think people have had a real focus on tackling. And I think, in credit to the RFL and to the England Rugby Union as well. If you see any of theirs, and they're all available online, all their tackling technique videos for young kids, it's about installing those good habits early on. And actually, if you've got good technique, 9 times out of 10, you're going to make a good tackle.
Yeah, agreed. So I think it's worked. And to be fair, when we talked about tackle height dropping underneath armpit, I think they're smart enough to go, actually, we're having some forward momentum here. There's enough change for us not to be too extreme in the following the signs. So, I agree. It's positive.
Very good. Excellent stuff. Right, well, moving swiftly forward. We mentioned briefly there Joel Moon, and if you're not caught up with another episode of Box 2 where Jonesy catches up with his old teammates, Joel Moon was over from his home in Australia with his lovely wife, and they came along to the Hall of Fame dinner, one of the best nights of the year, a fantastic occasion every year, but particularly special this year because we celebrated the 1975 Premiership win, and we're delighted to have 4 of the players, including Harry Sunderland Award winner Mel Mason, who was tracked down to his home down on the south coast and came up to it. Roy Dickinson actually joked on the evening, didn't he, that it was the first time he'd seen Mel since they left the field that day back in 1975. I don't know if that's Roy's memory playing up on him or an actual good fact, but it was a good story all the same. And then we celebrated 2 great occasions in the golden decade with the 2005 World Cup Challenge win against Canterbury Bulldogs at Ellen Road, and we were delighted Willie Poachin made it over from his home to be here with that one, and then the 2015 treble win, which Joel Moon obviously was part of, so it was great to have them guys there. Fantastic night, wasn't it, Jonesy? And of course, 2 of your former teammates inducted into the Leeds Rugby League Hall of Fame, and a great night.
Yeah, one of them being Kylie Luluai, and I sort of knew, so I'd pulled my chair around and got behind his table so I could video him from his back, and as Phil Kaplan expertly reads out the sort of synopsis that describes who's getting it, the later it gets, the more you know who's going to get it. So I'm watching Kylie's expressions. I filmed him going up. He had that interview there. It was Jamie Peacock, wasn't it, who presented him, and no better player, former teammate, to present that. But then impromptu, Willie Poachin and his son Kobe gets up and they do the haka, and like there's 440 people in the room. And I'm getting hairs up back of my neck now thinking about it. You just can't put a value on that. And you mentioned Mel and Roy Dickinson there. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I think we're going to try and find out. But if it is, I would hazard a guess that when he walks in that room and sees him, it's just like it was yesterday. Because that's the experience I had with Joel Moon when he pulled up on the Friday before, got out of the car, and it was like we'd just come off the field together. And that is what's so special about rugby league, about sport, and certainly here at the Leeds Rhinos. And I think it's really important to mention, Jamie Peacock said at the time, and I quote, "Nobody does it better than Leeds." And the reason being is because we've got so many people around the club that love the club, been here for a lot of years. We're always learning and cross-pollinating ideas and understandings. Obviously, Phil, you've curated and pulled together a lot of that history and heritage that we've had around the ground. It's on the walls. Yeah. And every time I go take someone on the tour, I learn something new, and Phil might be walking through. Phil, tell us about this. Then you've got people like Rob Oates, who stands in there in the commercial, the Howard on match day, and tells the stories. He's been a fan all his life. He was, I think, the only person in the room being at all finals. Yeah. Was it 75, 2005, 2015? And when you put that into a big melting pot, the occasion is just unbelievable. And you go away almost with a tear and excitement, but then you can't wait for the next one. And you've already got some ideas for them, what that might look like. You know, millions of themes, but it's all about you as well. It's about the club, it's about the team, it's about the fans, it's about Leeds RL. And this is funny, there's Leeds RL and there's Leeds Rhinos, and I don't know about you, I feel intrinsically interwoven into both. It doesn't really make much of a difference, but when you get somebody who's been a fan for 50 years, you know, showing them and bringing them back into that fold with some players that they watched when they were kids, there's just no better feeling for them.
And it was great, wasn't it, that the current squad were all there as well. Brad Arth was there and all the current squad, so they got to see this and feel part of it as well. And that was an important part of it. And we mentioned Kylie being inducted. Of course, Magsy was the other one from the Golden Decade, and he had some good stories, so particularly about you two rowing and having a scrap on the pitch at LKR.
Well, everybody always talks about Danny Maguire as the most competitive sportsman you'll ever meet. Anything he does, he's got to win. And I love that because I grew up loving winning. And on occasions, we'd all have different ideas about how to get a win. I just did as we're told, disagreed and then committed often. But me and Magsy sometimes would disagree and we'd have a little bit of a fight and a scuffle. So we're at LKR one particular game. Jamie Peacock was always monopolising all carries. He'd had about 32, I'd about 4. Magsy get his ball from dummy half and went, "Come with me, Jonesy." He gets to dummy half, I've come steaming up ball, and he's give it back JP again. And I'm like, "Are you mad?" So we've had a bit of an interaction there in front of LKR fans. They're laughing their red off. We kick the ball long and we're still rolling around, fighting and arguing. But it's because we both wanted the same thing, to win. And those moments, whilst they're high octane on the field, you walk off across that white line and it's completely forgotten. You're laughing about it and ready for the next job.
Yeah, it was just great. And Kevin Sinfield inducted Magsy into the Hall of Fame. It was just a fantastic night and it's so enjoyable. And great sharing great memories. And talking of great memories, we had another this weekend. Even more great memories being made here with the Rob Burrow Leeds Marathon and half marathon. You were out there on the course running with Kevin and Dave Spencer. For those who don't know Dave Spencer, that's Kev's mate who does all his challenges with him and has to keep up pace with Kev on all these challenges. And all three did a great job, particularly in the heat. Fantastic. What was it like out there on course?
It was amazing, and I had a really unique experience actually. It's my wife's birthday, so it was a big day for us, and my wife did the half marathon, I did the full. But I sort of parked up and I walked in the queues with all the participants and the fans, and I really got like a fan experience, you know, from car to car, getting back in it to go home. And everybody there just had this overwhelming sentiment of connection and raising money for people that need it the most, doing it for a mate with a mate, all that messaging that Rob Burrow and Kevin Sinfield have put out and bang that drum, shone that light over the last 4 years is there. It's distilled into this amazing event that starts and finishes at AMT Headingley Stadium. And to be a part of it, it's really hard to describe what it means. I think, Phil, for me as a Leeds lad as well, being a part of that culture and what those players mean to us and their legacy, I don't think there is a better occasion. I think it's even more important than some of the stuff with the rugby ball. It's very much intrinsically part of our culture and our DNA, doing it for a mate with a mate and this selfless concern for the well-being of others. You're right, I ran around with Kev, which is never easy when you with Kev and he's running a marathon, not least when he's coming out of Otley. He has these occasions where he can get angry with a situation and he just gets his head down and he bolts, and you're thinking, it's getting bigger and bigger, this gap here. Thankfully, we got to the top and the volume of people slowed it down a bit, managed to get back with him. But again, he's coming across the finish line and it's just symbolic of being there for a mate, doing it together, as he did with Rob famously in that first one. But for me, Phil, and it goes back to the Hall of Fame, the most important thing is turning up, being a part of it. Just come be a part of it, whether you're a fan, a participant, look after each other, and whether it be Hall of Fame or the marathon, we need you to turn up and be a part of it, because we don't know what we don't know and we can't be better, we can't grow without doing it together. So for me, and again, I'm getting hairs up back of my neck, I'm emotional. I had a great day as a fan, as an employee of Leeds Rugby League, as a husband of a wife that had a wonderful birthday, and as a citizen of Leeds, mate, it was just sensational.
Yeah, and I think the thing that really, when I think back to that first one, just 3 years ago, and how it's grown now, and you know, we've got the half marathon and the full marathon, but also there was the relay guys, and big shout out to our friends at BBC Breakfast who they were part of the relay team. Sally Nugent was part of that team running around the marathon, and a big congratulations to them as well, to Richard Frediano, who's the boss of BBC Breakfast. Richard to do the first leg starting from here, because he had to finish his section, then get to the train station, then get a train down to London, and then brilliantly finish off the night by winning a BAFTA for their news coverage around the post office scandal. It's the first time breakfast TV of any kind has won a BAFTA for that, and congratulations to those guys. They're part of the family here at the Rhinos, and we're delighted for them. So that was great. But I think that opening up of the marathon, so the first year. A marathon, you've done loads now. They're huge things, and for people who've never run, it's seems like a mountain that you'll never be able to summit. But now we've got the half marathon, we've got the relay on Saturday, brilliant event, the M&D Mile, which our friends up at Leeds Beckett hosted and did a fantastic job. And I spoke to Kev after that, and he said it was just fantastic to see young tots and people from the M&D community all being able to have their chance to be part of the weekend. And I think this is always an adage for us when we're planning out Kev's challenges, that the more people can be part of it, the better it is. And I just think you're 100% right. If you're on the street cheering, you're doing an incredible job for those out there. If you're able to pull the trainers on and get out there, or our great mate Ian Flatt, who was going around in his chair and doing a fantastic job again, and so many people involved in it. It's just it's only going to get bigger and better.
I think so. There was a guy doing it with a washing machine on his back as well. I don't know whether he's come back yet, but that's amazing. But coming back up there through Golden Acre Park, there's like probably a mile stretch that's bolt straight, and you can just see what seems like millions of little heads bobbing up and down in between trees, and you go, wow, how big could this be? And again, it's about a city coming together and being a part of a really special occasion. And it's really interesting that success for me is that's where it's born out of. Cross-pollinating ideas. I spent last 2 or 3 years, in this role of diversity and inclusion and culture. And what I've learned the most, Phil, is when you can see things through the eyes and ears of other people, other lived experiences, this mosaic of opinion, then you get a great objective perspective, and you can solve problems. So as Phil's saying there, coming and being a part of it just enriches Leeds, it enriches the Rhinos, and that blue and amber badge, that culture, that ethos, that DNA that we've got.
Yeah, and it was a busy weekend, not just with the marathon. Our women, of course, were in action in the Betfred Women's Challenge Cup. Unfortunately, missed out to Wigan, but we've last 2 years we've beat Wigan in the semi-final. So fair play to them. Third time, lucky for them. They finally get to go to Wembley. Our girls will respond from that. Lois is back at the helm now, so I'm no doubt they'll kick on from there. They've got St Helens this week in the Super League, so that'll be another big challenge for them. Looking forward to that. We also had a big weekend over on the Lincolnshire coast for a lot of the community clubs, and a big shout out to the Leeds Rhinos Foundation and their partners ESF Sport, who did a fantastic job with the Rhinos Challenge. And if you've been to Rhinos Challenge, which you have been many times, I went first time as a parent, and my daughter and my wife, my son had a fantastic time over there. An incredible event. How they move thousands of children around 3 different sites. And the most amazing is all the games kick off on time. How is that possible? I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to get one team on a Sunday to play another team, and we're invariably 5-10 minutes late before we kick off. But it was a fantastic organisation, brilliant stuff. I will say on Thursday for our Q&A edition, we've got the one, the only, the legend of Leeds Community Rugby League, Sam Horner, joining us. So we're going to talk all things Rhinos Challenge there. If you've got any questions, fire them over to info@therhinos.co.uk, and we'll put them to Sammy. If you've got any questions for Sammy to answer, as long as they're before the watershed, we'll put them to him as well, because his connection there at West Leeds and throughout the game in Leeds and District is quite phenomenal. But the Rhinos Challenge, it just continues to grow and grow, doesn't it?
It's phenomenal. It's grown every year. Persistence, consistency, and it sells out before they finish the last one. So this year, interestingly, was my youngest lad's last year, and he couldn't go because me and his mum were doing the marathon. It's the only bad thing, there's so much good stuff going on. You can't be everywhere at once. But I've seen some of the reports back. I think it's 6,000 attendees over 2 weekends. There's another one this coming weekend. Gareth Cutley, Rhinos Foundation, put that together. And it's pretty much community clubs from all over the country when we're talking about Rhinos Challenge. It's not just Leeds kids going there. There's kids from all over, and they're all fans of different Super League clubs. But for this one weekend, they get together. They're all in the Rhinos bubble, and it is just carnage in the best possible way. It is so much fun. I've been there for years as a dad, and when you think about the community rugby league and where rugby league is going, it's so important, as you've mentioned, our young people investing in them, both boys and girls, to be able to play rugby league, and they have the most fun, they make the most memories, they make friends, and do the very, very best things with that oval-shaped ball down in Butlin, Skegness, and we all have a laugh.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, it was a fantastic occasion. My daughter got to play against 2 teams from Wigan who she would never normally got to play against Hull KR. A great opportunity, just so we didn't fall out, Josie. They drew with Stellingly. There's no problem there. But they had a great weekend, and thank you to all the staff who get involved around Rhinos Challenge, doing an incredible job, particularly the referees, because those guys were brilliant. Really got involved, and they're well looked after by the Rhinos Foundation staff. But a great occasion, and as you mentioned, Jonesy, they go again this weekend, and it's netball's into the mix as well. So we've got rugby league and netball, perfect for Leeds Rhinos. That's what we're all about. The Rhinos netball guys lost out down at Loughborough this weekend in a tough game against the league leaders, but Lauren and the team will be looking to come back from that. And don't forget, we've got our huge game coming up at the First Direct Arena against Manchester. Bit of Cross Pennines rivalry, Roar the Roses. So make sure you get that's going to be a great occasion. If you've not been to see live netball yet, make sure you get a ticket for that down at the First Direct Arena here in Leeds. It's a great occasion, and you'll have a great fun day out for all the family at that one. And that's coming up very shortly. Looking ahead to this weekend, the immediate future, Hull FC here at AMT Headingley on Friday night. Friday night under lights, perfect. That's just how we like it. Hull had a disappointing Magic Weekend, but there were reasons behind that in terms of cards and things like that. But it's the old boys are coming back to face the Rhinos. We had Tom Briscoe here last week for the Hall of Fame. Him, Zach, obviously Richie up in the box, Davo on the sidelines. It's they'll certainly know the way to the ground.
Guys, listen, loads more. Yeah, absolutely coming back. They've been interesting for me this year. Hull FC. They've had some golden moments and some players that are really standing out. SA, for example, and then the other Sam SA, like you're going, what's going on here? I don't know if you watched the Magic Weekend game, but there were some moments that you're going, this is absolutely bonkers. Like we're talking about tackle technique, entertaining if you'd have watched it maybe 15 years ago. But they're dangerous, and certainly through the middle, got some big boys there that take some stopping. I think former Rhino Aidan Caesar's teaming up really well with Cade Cost, who's probably playing as good as he's played in Super League. Then Rappenar at the back there, who can be exceptionally dangerous. They're finding the feet. They've got some good formulas. They're enthusiastic, and they're believing in a lot of what they're doing. So they'll be a threat and they'll be a challenge. But again, when we listen to our boys and certainly Brad Arthur, it's about focusing on what we can do and making those incremental gains, building on the performance at Magic Weekend, and it should be a great spectacle. Get down, be a part of it, make some noise. All FC like to sing All Faithful on that back stand there. So yeah, we've all got a responsibility to come and get behind our boys, and I'm sure we will.
Yeah, definitely get down. They are coming in big numbers coming from Hull FC. I think there's a bit of a league table going on between Hull KR fans and Hull FC fans who can take the most away at all grounds, and they're looking to. We had a great atmosphere last time. Hull KR, we didn't get the result last. Disappointed with that, but the atmosphere was great. When you've got Western Terrace full of away fans, it just really adds to the whole atmosphere, doesn't it? And it's going to be that on Friday night.
Yeah, credit to them, but being a South Stander, or being in the South Stand from being 9 years old, I know exactly what volumes we can create as well, and it's been getting better. The Wigan game for me this year, I was stood there in the gantry on Sky, and it took my breath away being in there. It was amazing. But they always provide great opposition, all I've seen. It's always been a big rivalry. They don't like us. They don't like Hull KR. In fact, I once went to a game. It was a New Zealand game at the Boulevard, right? And they were playing it, New Zealand was on tour. And the first song they sang was We All Hate Hull KR. The second one was We All Hate Leeds. It was fascinating, even back then, culturally, like after Hull KR, we're the next worst team. So they're coming together. They'll believe in it as well. They want to come and upset us here at Headingley, AMT. So, but yeah, it's all about putting our best foot forward and building for the rest of the season.
And one of the other aspects to Friday's game is the varsity rugby league game, which I know you've got one foot in the camp on that one, having worked with those guys previously.
Yeah.
So Leeds Beckett versus Leeds Uni. Leeds Beckett unbeaten champions. But it's a tricky time of year, isn't it? Because lads go home after there's courses begin to finish things. So I don't know what sort of team Mark Bottrell's going to be able to put out. If you need to know more about Student Rugby League, we had Mark Bottrell on our Q&A edition a couple of weeks ago. Check that episode out because it's fascinating what Mark's doing there and the opportunities for growth for rugby league in that student game. But I'm sure the University of Leeds lads are licking their lips. We had the whole varsity just the other week there, and Leeds Beckett won the rugby union games here at AMT Headingley. But overall, the University of Leeds won it, so it's sort of almost like 1-1 really going into this one. And last year was a real battle between the two sides. They had to share the honours. So it could be another big game on Friday night.
Absolutely. Behind the scenes, a lot of my work, what I do is with Mark Butchell in the University down Stanley there. Certainly was. And I did a bit of coaching up there, and I've got a real soft spot, obviously, for Leeds Beckett. I studied at Leeds Beckett, so I've always been in the purple kit. But actually, the University of Leeds is a massive uni. Obviously got the spoils in the varsity there. And Phil, I mean, the union game, what was it, 10,000 there? And the noise that they make is a very unique pitch sound, isn't it, with the students? And obviously the big part of the Leeds landscape, certainly around Headingley. So the varsity is a big addition, a great curtain raiser, I think, before an LSC game. to get down as well, come and see them, support them. And, for me, I think the university experience is about those memories that you share, not just at uni, but in around the local environment. And I meet so many people that go away, have studied and evangelise the great game of rugby league, all Leeds when they go back down south and then obviously come back. But yeah, it's a big one. I thought the podcast you did with Mark Buttrell was fascinating, by the way. I thought it was brilliant. If you've not watched that, have a listen. I've been a big part of it for a while, but I learned loads and he's been excellent. Mark's been phenomenal. The way that he has not just built the union, the rugby league team there, but always unified that rugby league culture back at Leeds Beckett, back when Paul Fletcher used to do it. It was massive and they dominated, they monopolised for years. Well, Mark's got them back to booked final at Loughborough this year. They've got the championship. They've been outstanding. They're bringing students into play rugby league, and he's making a big difference in that that student books and educational rugby league landscape.
Brilliant stuff. Well, we can't wait for Friday night here at AMT Headingley. It's the varsity game before Leeds Rhinos take on Hull FC. It's always one of the biggest games of the year, biggest atmospheres of the year. So make sure, if you've not got your ticket yet, get onto tickets at therhinos.co.uk and you can find all the details there. We look forward to seeing you here on Friday night. We'll have our special Q&A edition on Thursday. Look out for that when Sam Horner will be our guest. Get your questions into info@therhinos.co.uk. Don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up to date with all the news and give us a 5-star review so we can continue to spread the word about all things Leeds Rhinos. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.